What's up? It's Megan, and today we're talking about macros. Hi, I'm the rescue dietitian, and I'm a dietitian and a trainer here to help first responders perform better, recover faster, and enjoy long, healthy retirements. And today we are talking about macronutrients. I had a question on Instagram recently about how many protein, carbs, and fat I should eat in a day. And oh boy, that's a really big question. You know, it's usually pretty individualized, and typically that's something that I work through with my clients or the first responders that I work with on an individual basis. But it certainly doesn't hurt to talk about macros and to talk about how you might be able to calculate that on your own if that's something that you wanted to do. But first, we should probably talk about them, right? What are macronutrients? Well, first, we want to talk about calories, and calories are a unit of energy. And if we really wanted to simplify it, the calories that you get from food would typically, hopefully, balance out how much you burn in a day through exercise, through walking, through shift work, through all those kinds of things. And it's not always that easy, right? We see firefighters, police officers from the beginning of their recruit class to the end of their retirement gain 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. So clearly it's not that simple. But, you know, we can talk about ways to adjust how you eat on shift, off shift, to kind of mitigate those things. Now, like I said, calories are a unit of energy, and what provides calories are macronutrients. And there are three macronutrients: protein, carbs, and fat. Protein is important for muscle health. So muscle health means gaining muscle, you know, either because you want to do a competition or you just want to get stronger. And protein also supports muscle maintenance or prevents muscle loss when you're trying to lose body fat, especially over a prolonged period of time, right? So protein, important for muscle. Carbohydrates are a quick source of energy. And why is that important as a firefighter, as a police officer, as a first responder? Well, the activities that you do on an unpredictable basis, say you have a fire, say you need to chase a suspect, it's quick, right? It's at the drop of a hat. You are going, 0 to 60 in 3.5 or less, right? So a quick source of energy is typically carbohydrates. It takes a lot longer for our bodies to use even complex carbohydrates like fiber and those kinds of things. And fat, it takes a lot longer for our bodies to use it. So typically, I actually prefer first responders, especially those who are in the academy or at busier stations of 20,000, 25,000 steps per day if they're wearing a fitness tracker or they know they're doing back-to-back calls. I prefer a higher percentage of carbohydrates. Same thing if they're athletes, they like to run, or maybe they like to really push themselves in the gym. Then we want to keep the carbs a little higher. Now, when I would lower the carbohydrate percentage is when someone gets injured maybe, and they're going to be bedridden, they're on surgeries, that kind of stuff. Or if they're shifted into more of a sedentary position. So now they're in a patrol car, or they're stuck, now they're at the 911 call center and they're sitting there for most of the day. That's when we might lower the carbohydrate percentages a little bit, just because you're not burning as many calories and we can kind of crunch that down and leave more room for protein. So, and then the last macronutrient is going to be fat. And fat is going to be important for recovery, brain health. For those who are trying to gain weight, fat is a really easy way for you to add calories without adding like a lot of bulk or a lot of meals, especially if you're somebody who gets full pretty quickly. So again, macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat. Now, you have your total calories per day. Say you have 2,000 calories per day. If you go into MyFitnessPal or a calorie tracker app, typically they put your calories per day in a little pie chart, right? A percentage comes from carbs, a percentage comes from protein, and a percentage comes from fat. And it's a nice little pie chart, right? And we play around with those percentages, typically based off of your goals. So I usually start off by, once I have my calorie idea, and there's all different types of calculators out there. Most dietitians will use Mifflin St. Jeor as a equation, but if you're not a dietitian, you might want to just use a calculator and get a starting point or put it in MyFitnessPal. So now you've got your starting point of calories. Once you have that, then I calculate out protein. Your protein amount, and typically I do it in grams and then convert it into percentages, but typically you want to hit a certain amount of grams to maintain muscle or gain muscle based on your goals, based on your activity level. Once you have your protein, your carbs and your fat really don't matter as much. Now, the caveat is if you are a high intensity athlete, if you run, if you cycle, if you do a lot of cardio, or even if you do a lot of high intensity weightlifting, CrossFit, what have you, we probably want to keep the carbs high. But there's a trend in most departments across America, across the globe right now, to go lower carb, keto, paleo, primarily keto. Now, as a dietitian, as a sports dietitian, I don't think it is optimal to lower your carbohydrates and still perform as high as you want to. It's not optimal, but it's okay. It's doable. If it helps, if you prefer those food choices, you prefer higher fat foods like avocado or olive oils, nuts and seeds, those kinds of things, then that's your preference. However, I'm not saying that everybody needs to go low carb. So today we're going to just go through a generic sample of calculating out how many calories, protein, carbs, and fat someone might need in a day. If you want personalized calorie and macronutrients, you can go to my website, rescuerd.com, and I have an option where you can buy a macronutrient plan, and I will calculate it out based on your height, weight, age, and body fat percentage. So it'll give you an idea of where to start off at. So let's get to calculating. Over to the whiteboard. All right, so here we are at the handy dandy whiteboard, right? And we are going to base this example off of a male who is 6'2", 210 pounds, and roughly 18% body fat. So if you're wondering what's the body fat percentage we want to aim for with males, usually if they're under 20%, I'm pretty happy, but sometimes that means that that person might want to lean out, maybe for summer or for whatever reason. For women, usually if it's under 30%, I'm pretty happy. Women do need a little bit more body fat in order to function, optimally. So with this example, whenever you get like the calorie macro sheets, if you want to get that through my website, it's going to give you options for no activity, moderate activity, high activity, and then like fire suppression. So super high activity, like you did 1 to 2 hours of overhaul and really kind of worked it. It will also give you, if you want to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain weight. And then also the macros for that as well. Now, in this scenario, we're just going to go based off of someone who might work a slower job, but works out 1 to 2 days a week, and they want to lose about 1 pound per week in body fat. So for this person, that might be about 2,700 calories to lose weight. Okay? That actually might seem high for some people, but the goal is with weight loss, we want to first see where you either maintain or we want to see how high calories we can get you to lose weight on. If I jump this person down to 2,000 calories, or even jump this person down to 1,600 calories for a 6'2" guy, 210 pounds, that's not a lot. They're going to feel like garbage. And the goal is to not feel like garbage. The other goal is, we want to, once you hit a plateau, you're at 2,000, 1,600 calories as a 6'2" dude, you're going to feel pretty rough and hit a plateau and have nowhere to move. Nowhere to move. You're not going to want to go any further, and you might rebound the other direction. So we want to see, through tracking, either through MyFitnessPal, that kind of thing, can this person lose weight on 2,700 calories? So that does come from trial and error. Now, how do we know what protein, carbs, and fat are going to make that percentage, that little pie chart for the calories, right? So we have 2,700 calories. Let's figure out the protein. Now, for protein, somebody who might be driving around in a car for most of the day, slower station, not a whole lot of physical movement. For protein, we actually go based off of kilograms. So 210 pounds for this guy is 95 kilograms. And a sedentary person or someone who doesn't move so much is going to be between 1.2 and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram. So we go ahead and we multiply 95 by 1.2 to 1.6. And for this example, that's going to be 114 to 152 grams of protein. Now, and that's typically for someone who might want to lose a little bit or whatever. Now, weights, someone who trains with weight training is going to need a little bit more protein than that. So, a strength training athlete, a power lifter, CrossFitter, what have you, we increase that to 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram, which for this person comes out to 152 to 210 grams per kilogram. Now, this might seem like kind of high protein, for some people. Honestly, if you want to maintain that muscle mass, which a lot of y'all do, getting to the at least lower ranges is a good place to start. So for this person, the lower range, if they were weight training, would be 150 grams of protein per day. Okay. In a healthy person, not going to cause any issues. Will actually probably optimize their workouts, optimize their goals, and those kinds of things. So as long as you're healthy, this is no problem, right? And most firefighters on duty are pretty healthy. So, well, okay, maybe not, but you get the idea. So what do we do once we want to get the protein or the calories or the percentage of calories from protein? We said that I want to go with 150 grams of protein for this person because they're weight training, and we're going to go with the lower range to make sure they can get to that first. Now, we multiply that by 4. Why do we multiply that by 4? Because protein has 4 calories per gram. So to get how many calories are coming from protein, we multiply the protein goal of 150 grams by 4. And that gives us 600 calories coming from protein. To get the percentage, we go with 600 divided by 2,700 calories, which is the calorie goal, and that comes out to 22%. Now that I have my percentages for protein, I usually kind of let the carbs and fat go based on the person. But if someone wants my recommendation, I typically leave it relatively high carb. So that would mean the rest would be between like 45 and 50% of their calories coming from carbs, and then fat between 25 and 30% coming from fat. Typically, I won't go super, super low fat because one, when you're cooking at a firehouse or you're grabbing a lot of fast food, you're going to end up with slightly higher, not slightly, sometimes way higher fat intake than someone who makes most of their meals at home and does lean choices for protein and that kind of thing. The protein sources I typically see at firehouses are not lean or low fat by any means usually. So typically I try to keep the fat a little bit higher. And it can go higher than this if you want to go keto. But again, your workout might suffer. So this is just a really brief sample. Dietitians actually do quite a lot more math than you think. This sounds really tricky, which is why I have this protein and calorie report, which will actually calculate out not only the amount of water you need or sports drink you need for long-term activity, but also your protein needs if you're sedentary, weight training for based off of lean body mass for fat loss, and then also muscle gain, how much protein you need per meal, carbs, carbohydrates if you're a marathoner, and then of course all the sources. So that's available if you want on my website. I'm happy to calculate your macros out for you and personalize it to you. But if you don't want to do that, what I would suggest is just try logging in MyFitnessPal first. Just use whatever their generic thing is and see if you can stick to it. At the end of the day, whoever gives you your macro goals, whoever gives you your calorie goals, it's going to be based on trial and error. We do not, as professionals, know right off the top of your head what exactly is going to work for you right away. We've got to try it first. So you go through a week, try and stick to it consistently, see where you end up. And if your weight hasn't gone down or it hasn't gone up, depending on your goals, then we adjust. And usually the adjustment is like between 200 and 300 calories. For me, I adjust it pretty slowly. Okay. So now if you want to do individualized coaching, one-on-one, that's also an option. You can do that through Rescue RD or shoot me an email. meganlouts@gmail.com. And this calorie report would be free or included in that package. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments or give me some new ideas, because again, I want this channel to be really geared towards first responders.